23rd of March, and we're going to start off talking about how we get those traits into egg, or how we get those alleles into eggs or sperm. So how many chromosomes do you have in every cell of your body? How many chromosomes do you have in every cell in your body? Talk it over at your table. 46. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Every cell in your body except the eggs or sperm has got 46 chromosomes. So I'm going to do a little cell here in somebody's body. And we'll say this is a female. Okay. When we divide that cell to make an egg, and we're not going to go through the entire process of what's called oogenesis, the creation of eggs, or spermatogenesis, which is the creation of sperm. We'll talk about it in very broad terms, but we really don't have time to go to the level of detail I would like to. When that happens, well, let me make that more egg-like, shall I? There. That looks like an egg. When that happens, half the chromosomes go to one of those eggs, and half the chromosomes go to another of those eggs. And remember, we had, 2 copies of chromosome 1. I'm going to make these different colors just to help out a little bit. We had 2 copies of chromosome 2, 2 copies of chromosome 3, and on and on and on. And each egg is going to get 1 copy of chromosome 1, 1 copy of chromosome 2, 1 copy of chromosome 3. That's the way it works. Now, how do you decide which copy goes to which egg? Well, you don't. It's called random assortment. They just go. So if we imagine looking at a particular gene on one of these chromosomes, if we say that this purple chromosome, let's simplify this, okay? Let's say this is a species that has only 10 chromosomes, like the beaver babies we've been working with. So how many chromosomes, or I'm sorry, let's simplify even more. Let's say this is a species that has 20 chromosomes in every cell in their body. How many chromosomes does each egg get? 10. That's their haploid number. So this is a diploid cell, and these are haploid cells. So let's say that on one of those genes, and I'm not going to draw all 20, we have big D, little d. We have a gene that is contained on that chromosome. So it's a 50-50 chance that this egg either gets a big D or it gets a little d. Okay? 50-50 shot. It's a 50-50 shot that this egg either gets a big D or a little d. We don't know which is going to get what. It's also, if we say that there's a big T and a little t, whoops, and a little t on that chromosome, it's a 50-50 shot that this egg will either get a big T or a little t. We don't know. And this one could get a big T or a little t. It's called independent assortment. And what it means is that traits get all shuffled up. So this is how, you could pass on the shape of your eyes to your offspring, but your offspring could have the shape of your partner's nose. Or your offspring could have your hair color, but your partner's hair texture. So we shuffle these things up, and the offspring only gets half the chromosomes from each parent. Okay, so how this works practically is that when we look at a trait like tail length, if we have, and this is the symbol for female, that circle with the cross down from it. The symbol for male is the circle with a little pointy up arrow next to it. So when we look at the maternal contribution, the egg, we're going to draw this. When we look at the paternal, we're going to draw this. So I'll do that to make it easy, okay? If the mother's genotype is big T, little t, for every egg that is formed What are the possibilities for that egg? Well, the egg could either be a big T egg or it could be a little t egg. That's pretty easy. If the father is also big T, little t, so I'll make that an egg. For every sperm that's formed, what are the possibilities? This is as easy as it looks. This is not a trick question.
Big T or little t?
Big T or little t, yeah. So then, when these two individuals reproduce, and hopefully 23 chromosomes or 10 chromosomes or however meets the equal number in the other offspring, we can figure out what the percentage chances are that their baby will have a given genotype. Okay? I usually put female across the top, male on the side here. And you can do it either way, just show which is which. Let me move this around. Oops. Move this around a little bit. Okay. So what we do, this is a Punnett Square. This is what's called a monohybrid cross Punnett Square. Mono means how many? One. We are crossing a single trait at a time, one trait. So hybrid is a cross of two things. A monohybrid cross is a cross of one trait. So across the top where we're putting mom's contribution, we're going to put all the possibilities for an egg for her. It could be a big T egg, it could be a little t egg. Here on the side where we're putting dad's contribution, we put all the possibilities for a sperm for him. That could be a big T sperm or a little t sperm. Now what we want to look at is how those things might meet up in a fertilized egg, in an offspring. So we just bring down the letters, and that shows us the possible combinations. Okay. So, is there a chance, I'll let you finish. Okay, most of you are finished with that. Is there a chance that they could have an offspring that had a big T genotype?
Yeah.
Yeah. About 1 in 4 chance. Is there a chance that they could have an offspring that had a little t genotype? Yeah, recessive genotype. We call that a recessive homozygous. Is there a chance that they could have offspring that have a big T, little t, that are, in other words, heterozygous, that have 2 different alleles? Yeah. We would expect roughly 50% of their offspring would have that genotype. So if we look at this, the chances of them having a homozygous dominant, 2 dominant alleles, big T, it's about 1 in 4. The chances of their offspring having a heterozygous genotype, big T, little t, about 2 in 4, about half. And the chances of their offspring having a recessive homozygous, little t, are about 1 in 4. So we look at this and we talk about a genotype, whoops, not genotyper, I don't know where that came from, genotype ratio. And in this case, our genotype ratio is 1 to 2 to 1. And we always start off with dominant, recessive, and finish with recessive. Okay? So the genotype ratio, this is a heterozygous monohybrid cross. We had 2 heterozygous parents. The ratio of genotypes in their offspring would be about 1 to 2 to 1. Now, we said there are 3 possibilities for genotype with any characteristic. How many possibilities are there for phenotype? Fingers. Just vote. Hold up fingers. How many? Just 2. For Mendelian traits, for Mendelian characteristics. So, what would be the possible phenotypes for their offspring? Let's move that up there. Well, the possible phenotypes are long tail, short tail. Which of their offspring, I'm going to uncircle these, which of their offspring have long tails? Which ones? Well, 3 of them do. So the ones who have big T, and the ones who have big T, little t. So if we circle those as we go, that means 3 of their offspring are going to be long-tailed. Which of their offspring has a short tail? Poor little t, our little homozygous recessive. Okay, so little t is going to have a short tail, so only 1. So really what you would expect in their offspring is that about 3 to 1, that's our phenotype ratio, 3 to 1 of their offspring are going to have the dominant phenotype. About 75% of their offspring will have long tails. Now, who here is from a family of 4 or more? I got 1 from 4. Okay, excellent. Do these ratios work out perfectly? No. The odds every single time there's a fertilized egg, the odds of getting the dominant phenotype are 3 to 1. Does that mean nobody's ever born with the recessive? Or does that mean that if you have 4 kids, 3 of them will have long tails and 1 will have a short tail? Well, hopefully your kids don't have any tails. But if we have a litter of 4 beaver kits, does that mean it will be 3 and 1? No. We could have 2 and 2. We could have 4 and none. It doesn't, these are not destiny. These are percentage chances. So let's do one that somebody asked about the other day. What about the sex chromosomes? What are the chances of it being a girl or a boy? So let's look at mom's genotype, dad's genotype. And these are assuming these are assuming sort of common sex chromosome arrangements. There are some pretty uncommon, well, I don't know how uncommon they are, but there are some trisomies that can occur with sex chromosomes where you can have XXX, XXY. Sometimes those individuals are fertile and able to conceive. Sometimes they are not. It largely depends on the physiological, that means like how that trisomy played out in their body. But if we're assuming that we have just a normal XX and a pretty common XY, when the mother's body creates an egg, so we'll put mom here, put dad here. When mom's body creates an egg, what chromosomes can she contribute to that egg? X. Oh, she could also contribute an X. There's no choice. When a female creates an egg, all the eggs have an X chromosome for their sex chromosome. When a male creates sperm, what could he contribute to a sperm? X or Y. So about half of sperm are X-bearing, about half of sperm are Y-bearing. So if you look at which one? Henry VIII, the wives of Henry VIII, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. One or two of his wives were essentially divorced, or they found grounds to execute her, basically because she hadn't given him a son. Guess whose fault that was? His. Sex determination lies entirely with the father. All a female can contribute is an X chromosome. So the determination of boy or girl is all down to the sperm. The egg's got nothing to do with sex determination. You get an X sperm, you got a girl. You get a Y sperm, you got a boy. Now, let's do the same thing we did with the other monohybrid cross. One trait that we're crossing. What are our possible genotypes here? It is a 50-50 chance with every fertilized egg that it will be XX or XY. Even odds. Now, is anybody here somebody who has one sibling? You are one of a family of two? Okay, so you have a brother, right? You couldn't have a sister possibly because it's, if one of you is a girl, the other has to be a boy. So you've got a sister, right? What? You have a sister, right? But it's 50-50! My husband has a brother too. He's one of two. Just because the odds are 50-50 doesn't mean that half of all babies born are girls and half of all babies born are boys. As a matter of fact, it's not. And I think at birth there are slightly more males. I think slightly more male. I can't remember this. I think if I remember correctly, there are slightly more males conceived, slightly more males born, but male mortality is higher. So by the time you get to like age 10, there are more females, or it's even. And by the time you get to your 50s, there are more females. And by the time you get to your 90s, there's like one male for every 10 females or something. Men in nursing homes are very popular as dance partners. There aren't a lot of them. So if it was 50-50 straight up, there would be equal numbers of boys and girls born. There aren't. There aren't even equal numbers of boys and girls conceived. In a family, I have a cousin who has 6 beautiful girls. 6. They kept thinking, okay, the next one's really got to be a boy. Nope. 50-50 odds, they'd have 3 boys, 3 girls. They don't. So just because the odds or the ratios are 1-to-1, what is the genotype ratio here? Genotype ratio here is 1-to-1. 1-to-1. Genotypically, the chances are 50% at every conception that it will be a boy or a girl. What's the phenotype ratio? And the phenotype here is male-female. 1-to-1. It's pretty binary. Gender may or may not, biological sex is relatively binary. Okay. That's monohybrid crosses. Here's my question for you. Do you feel like you understand them better than you did a few years ago? Okay. Let's do 2 more examples that are kind of odd examples, and then we'll start dihybrid crosses probably tomorrow. Okay, so let's look at, here's mom, dad. Let's look at a mother whose genotype for, let's do tail length again, is little t, little t. Hetero or homozygous recessive. She has a little t, little t. When her body manufactures eggs, what are the options that she could contribute to an egg? A little t! Yeah, or a little t. There are no options. Okay, let's say that dad is homozygous big T. Big T. When dad's body manufactures a sperm, what could he contribute to a sperm? Big T! They're all going to be big T. So now let's look at the genotypes that are possible in their offspring, and you're going to see something here. Whoa, look at that. They're all identical. What's the genotype of every single offspring here? Big T, little t. What's the phenotype of every single offspring here? Long-tailed. This is going to be a family that all looks, in this case, like dad. Uniformly long-tailed. Yes?
So what exactly determines if something's recessive or not?
That's a great question. I don't necessarily have a great answer for it. What determines it? I don't know, honestly. A better geneticist than I could probably tell you. It's sort of an observed phenomena that we know that when there are these 2 options for a trait, one masks the presence of the other. Biologically, it probably gets down into protein expression. I mean, at the DNA level. So here, the genotype ratio, we would say, is 1-to-0. They all have the same genotype. Guess what the phenotype ratio is? 1-to-0. And I should put the word ratio in here. Those ratios are really important. Okay? So if you cross two, these are purebred parents. I have long wanted to do a thing. I don't think I'll ever pull it off. I wanted to run a breeding colony of mice in my biology classroom. Do you know how smelly this would be? And we were going to take purebred white mice and purebred dark mice and breed them to prove purebred. If in fact they are purebreds, what you would see in their offspring would be uniform. They should look like the dominant characteristic. If you then take these guys and breed them, well, then you're back to here, and you should see a 3-to-1 ratio in phenotypes. So it would be a way to prove that those mice were purebred or not. Okay, I have 2 more minutes of your time, and I'm going to do one more thing. Which means you don't pack up your stuff yet. Thank you. What if we have a, this one's easy, little t mom, little t dad.
It's recessive.
Then, huh?
It's recessive.
It's a recessive. Both parents have the recessive appearance. All the offspring are all going to be little short-tailed beavers. This is a whole family of short-tailed beavers. Is there any place that a long-tailed beaver might pop up from in here? No. When you've got a recessive characteristic concentrated, it's going to appear again and again and again. Phenotype and genotype ratio, 1-to-0. Okay. Tomorrow we are going to start dihybrid crosses. Dihybrid would mean how many traits are we crossing? 2. Di is 2. Okay, pack it up. I will see you tomorrow. Have fun at Battle of the Classes.